Never before in history have three sitting world leaders been wanted criminals at the same time. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Hibatullah Akhundzada. And very soon, a fourth name may join them, Myanmar's Min Aung Hlaing. These are not rebels hiding in caves. They are presidents and prime ministers who still control nations. How did the world build a court strong enough to indict presidents, but too weak to ever arrest them? The idea of punishing leaders for crimes against humanity began more than a century ago. After World War II, the world held the Nuremberg and Tokyo trials to prosecute Nazi and Japanese leaders. For the first time, prime ministers and generals stood trial not just for losing a war, but for crimes against humanity. But then came the Cold War, and the dream of global justice was frozen for decades. It wasn't until the horrors of Yugoslavia and Rwanda that the idea returned. In 1993, the UN created the International Criminal Tribunal for Yugoslavia. 161 people were indicted, from foot soldiers to generals and even a president. Slobodan Milosevic became the first sitting head of state ever indicted by an international court. He was accused of attempting to ethnically cleanse Kosovo, killing thousands and displacing nearly 1 million people. A year later in Rwanda, nearly 1 million people were slaughtered in just 100 days. Rwanda Prime Minister, Jean Kambanda, was arrested and pleaded guilty to genocide. These courts proved international justice was possible, but they were temporary solutions. In 1998, the world signed the Rome Statute, creating the International Criminal Court. By 2002, the ICC came into force as the world's first permanent criminal court. But many powerful nations refused to join, including the US, Russia, China, India, and Israel. The ICC's first major test came in 2009 with Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir. He was indicted for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide in Darfur. Yet Bashir traveled widely, even to ICC member states, and nobody arrested him. Every unfulfilled warrant weakened the court's credibility. In 2011, the ICC indicted Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, but rebels killed him before trial. For its first decade, every suspect indicted by the ICC was African. Leaders across the continent accused the court of racism and political bias. The ICC had power on paper, but no one feared it in practice. For 2 decades, Vladimir Putin dominated Russian politics. In 2022, he launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russian forces seized nearly 1/5 of Ukraine's territory. But the ICC did not indict Putin for bombings or battlefield massacres. Instead, he was accused of deporting tens of thousands of Ukrainian children into Russia. Ukraine claimed the children were being stripped of their identity and raised as Russians. In March 2023, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. For the first time, a nuclear superpower's leader was declared a fugitive. Putin continued to travel abroad, choosing countries outside ICC membership. In 2024, he even visited Mongolia, a member of the ICC. Mongolia did nothing. Putin left untouched. By the end of 2024, another name joined the list, Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel's invasion of Gaza became one of the deadliest conflicts of the century. The ICC accused Netanyahu of using starvation as a weapon of war. Israel rejected the court's authority, and the United States condemned the indictment. Like Putin, Netanyahu kept traveling abroad despite his warrant. In 2025, Hungary welcomed him and promised no arrest would take place. Hungary even announced it would withdraw from the ICC entirely. Next came Hibatullah Akhundzada, the Taliban's supreme leader. Under his rule, Afghan women and girls were stripped of nearly all their rights. Scholars called it gender apartheid, a system of complete segregation. In 2025, the ICC indicted Akhundzada for crimes against humanity. Another leader soon faced charges, Myanmar's Min Aung Hlaing. In 2021, he seized power in a military coup. Pro-democracy protests followed, and he ordered brutal crackdowns. But his worst crimes began years earlier, against the Rohingya minority. The Rohingya had already been stripped of citizenship and basic rights. In 2017, the military launched a campaign of terror. Tens of thousands were killed, entire communities erased. Over 700,000 Rohingya were forced into Bangladesh. They ended up in the largest refugee camp on Earth. The United Nations called it genocide. Human rights groups demanded international justice. In 2024, the ICC prosecutor requested a warrant for Min Aung Hlaing. The warrant is still pending but likely to be confirmed soon. That would make 4 sitting world leaders wanted by the ICC. Yet none of these leaders have been arrested. The powerful continue to travel freely while the court looks powerless. Omar al-Bashir once visited ICC member states, and none arrested him. Putin visited Mongolia in 2024, and again, nothing happened. Netanyahu visited Hungary in 2025 despite his warrant. The pattern is clear: politics wins, justice loses. Many nations accuse the ICC of selective justice. Why was George W. Bush never indicted for the Iraq War? Critics say the West protects its own while punishing others. The ICC's authority survives only when countries choose to respect it. And today, its legitimacy is hanging by a thread. Never before have so many sitting world leaders been wanted criminals at the same time. They are fugitives, yet they still run nations and command armies. They travel abroad, shake hands, and pose for cameras while warrants gather dust. Some countries demand justice, while others look away. The question of who gets punished depends less on law and more on politics. Why was America never punished for invading Iraq in 2003? That war left hundreds of thousands dead, yet no trial ever came. Saddam Hussein was tried, but only in an Iraqi court. His son Uday was remembered as one of history's darkest figures. His crimes showed how absolute power can corrupt absolutely. The ICC is powerful in name, but weak in enforcement. What good is justice if it cannot be enforced? Yet the warrants send a message. Even presidents are not untouchable. Their names are forever written in the record of international law. Justice may be delayed, but it is not erased. This era sets a precedent for global accountability. But the court's future depends on nations choosing law over politics. Will the ICC survive, or collapse under its own weakness? The answer will shape how justice is delivered for generations to come. In this unprecedented era, even the most powerful must face the shadow of justice. This is the story of power, justice, and the fight between them.